All right, you've been asking for a signature win, and the Pelicans delivered Friday in their victory over the Clippers. Zion Williamson dominated, and you saw some interesting adjustments from head coach Willie Green. I'll explain what helped them get the dub. It's a bonus episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with y'all late on a Friday night. Instead of going out having fun on the weekend, I'm here with y'all because that was such a massive victory. We needed to do a bonus show here on Locked On Pelicans because you actually saw, beyond just the stakes, the importance of the game. You saw some really interesting things for the Pelicans, and I'm excited to break those all down. If there's enough time, if we got enough people in here and we want to keep going, we might do a bonus little fourth segment of Locked On Pelicans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join almost 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. Tell a friend about the show as well. Get them watching right now. We are live here on YouTube. It'll be posted on the podcast side of everything as well. So let's get into it because this game was massive, right? Like there's just no downplaying how important this game was to New Orleans from a variety of different reasons. And we're going to start with that, right? 112-104 win over the Clippers, keeping it close all game and starting to get some separation in the second half behind a dominant Zion Williamson performance in this one. He was fantastic. We'll get to him in a minute here. But the stakes were big for this game. This is the team that you're trailing in the standings. Also the team you're likely to play in the first round of the playoffs no matter what, at least at this point in time. Coming out and delivering a victory there sends a message to them, sends a message to you as well that you can compete and potentially get out of the first round of the playoffs. I don't know. That seems pretty big to me here. You're trailing them in going into this one 3 games in the standings. A win also claws you 1 game back. So now they're only 2 behind. The Pelicans don't exactly control their own destiny, but they're also at least a little bit closer. 2 games over 16 games left to go. Little bit of a stretch, but it's doable against a decent enough Clippers team that has some talent on them. But the Pelicans knew what the stakes of this one were. They made the right adjustments, knowing that you've got to just get this victory. So you need to kind of ride certain players. Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson being the 2 examples of that. Herb Jones made some amazing plays in this one as well. It was just, look, the way I would describe it is this. New Orleans understood the assignment, and that is a far-ranging New Orleans. I didn't say the Pelicans understood the assignment because also the fans understood the assignment. The energy in the Smoothie King Center was high, was electric. People knew the stakes of this game. Like, well done. This as a city, right? The city of New Orleans showed up. What was fantastic to see was for the final minute 30, everyone in the Smoothie King Center standing. And when the Pelicans forced a miss on the Clippers, they got the offensive board up. I think it was not 7. With 40 seconds left to go, they just stood, clapped, and cheered for the team because they knew what they just witnessed. This is why when people say New Orleans isn't a basketball city, it's a lazy narrative because the entire arena knew what the stakes of this game were. And not only did the Pelicans deliver, but the fans in the arena delivered as well. That says something, right? We've had big games in the past that people haven't necessarily shown up for. It's been a while since that. But everyone knew the stakes of this. People have been saying the Pelicans are beating up on sub-500 teams. We even talked about it in yesterday's show. I don't particularly care what their record against good teams is, but when you get this victory, it sets some expectations. The reason I said in yesterday's show, if you're an everydayer, you know this, is that I don't really have expectations for the playoffs. I just kind of want to see them in there, figure out what's wrong, fix it this offseason, and go and try and become a true contender next year. I still don't view them as a contender this year, but this is one of those games where you go, oh, maybe they can get out of the first round of the playoffs, and they start setting some high expectations for themselves. I dig that. I think that's the correct thing here. So I'm excited to see what this team can really start to do in the future with everything because yeah, they were really, really good overall in this game. You needed to get this victory. And so for the Pelicans to close the game out in the fashion they did with a great adjustment, different lineup, right? We'll talk about that in the next segment here, was an awesome thing to see. You should just be really proud of this team. Like, just take a moment. This is what the whole first segment is. Just take a moment and enjoy this win. I do think, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, that the Clippers are a somewhat favorable matchup, as evidenced by the Pelicans going 3-1 against them this season. That's also why this game was massive, right? You're 2 games behind them right now. 2 games. Here's the thing. To pass them in the standings now, you don't need to go a game up on them, right? If you wanted to get the 4th seed before this game, let's say, you would need to win, you need to be 3 up on them when you're 2 behind, right? A 3-game swing, so you go 1 game up on them, and that secures you the seed. Now with the 3-1 series record this season, you can tie them and have the same record as them at the end of the regular season, and you're the higher seed. That means the Pelicans can win 1 less game. Pretty big thing, right? Like, that makes this feel bigger, and it definitely was. You wanted to see them get a win over a non-bottom feeding team. The Pelicans now moved to 40 wins already with on the season. There's 16 games left to go. It's going to be a race to kind of 50-51 wins, I think, for this. But the Pelicans took care of business. They did it with defense. They did it with offense after things got a little bit dicey for a while. That first half was a little bit sluggish, but they came alive in the second half. We'll talk more about that. That's coming up here next on an Instant Reaction live show. I see y'all in the chat. We'll talk more in the bonus 4th segment just for YouTube that we're going to do. Let's talk about Zion Williamson, what you saw from him, and why this game was important for Zion. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm excited to tell you about LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Look, you can't have open positions in a small business. You need everyone pulling their weight. You can't have people stretched thin. You need to hire fast. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than a billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. And hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Look, you might not have HR. You might not have time to do hiring. Let LinkedIn take a lot of that off your plate. And over 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen. Today and every day, we are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, breaking down everything you want to know. We are available wherever you get your podcasts, and join almost 10,000 of y'all on YouTube. It's fun seeing all the comments and everyone interacting with one another. I see the comments here on the live show. We'll get to those in the little bonus 4th segment where I'll answer your questions, interact with y'all a little bit more on the live post-game episode of Locked On Pelicans, because that was a massive win. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Become an everydayer. Listen Monday through Friday. You would not be shocked by this win, right? If you're an everydayer, because we did a show on this. And a couple of things came very true. I'm very pleased with that. We'll talk more about that in a minute here. But this game was great because you wanted to see Zion Williamson dominate, right? He's been getting into form this season. I don't want to say he looks like Duke Zion, because I don't think anything's going to look like Duke Zion again, and that's an okay thing. But he's clearly hitting his stride this season. This is the best we've seen him this year. I think the best we've ever seen Zion was the month of December in 2022 at that point. Leading up to that hamstring injury, he was dominant. He's getting back into form right now. 34 points on 14 of 21 shooting. He made 2/3 of his shots. Didn't shoot well from the foul line. We'll get into that in a second. 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, an incredible block, just 3 turnovers there on the usage rate that he had. It's a really strong performance. One of the things we have wanted to see, you want to see from Zion, is leading the team, right? Be the leader. I do our Locked On NBA show, our national show on Wednesdays. Gets a lot of views. It's a big deal, right? And I was talking about the Clippers' loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves, the game that Kawhi Leonard left the arena with back spasms. And Paul George just failed to take over that game and lead, the Clippers in a way that he really should have. And it allowed the Minnesota Timberwolves to come back and beat the team. It was a big victory for the Timberwolves there because their star player left, Paul George, just wasn't capable of doing that, right? One of the things we want to see from Zion is be a leader, be that dominant guy, take over a game when we need you to get the victory. The offense was struggling in the first quarter out there. And then as Zion got more into the game, when they started getting him the ball, not putting him in the corner, which I get and don't get, he took over and he just dominated, right? That's the best way to put it. The 34 points that he had in this one, is that the number? 34 points on 21 shots is fantastic efficiency. There was nothing that any of the Clippers could do. And of the starters who struggled, again, Zion is one of the two, Herb Jones being the other one, and Brandon Ingram too, with a positive plus minus, but the only one in double digits. You needed a big key win, and you want to see your star players get it for you, not the bench. Zion delivered in this game, right? That says something there that he's capable of taking over against a playoff team, a team you're likely going to play in the postseason, and deliver the win, right? Zion delivered the win here, and seeing him do that and being that aggressive, bought in defensively, making plays, that is a huge thing for this team. It's we've never seen Zion in the postseason, right? We've never seen him in the postseason. Will he do well? Will he not? Right? This game had a playoff atmosphere to it. It felt like a playoff game. Both teams being very physical, really wanting to win this game. And Zion's the guy who dominated. Not Kawhi Leonard, not Paul George. They were good, don't get me wrong, right? Paul George, 26 points, Kawhi Leonard, 23. But they weren't dominant. Paul George took 21 shots to get 26 points, right? Zion took 21 shots and got 34 points. There's a huge difference between those numbers. One of them also did it without shooting threes. Zion looked so good. The most impressive play was at the end of the third quarter. They kind of botched a little bit of a 2-for-1. Zion missed 2 free throws. They forced, the Clippers went down, and I think it was that they scored, right? There's 3.5 seconds left on the clock, and Zion wanted to go and inbound the ball. So I like this. Zion wanted to inbound the ball. It was Trey Murphy who was inbounding it. He wanted to inbound the ball so that he could get it to Trey. With Trey inbounds it, and then Zion kicks it back to Trey, well, he doesn't really have a chance for a three-pointer, right? That's kind of what you're looking for, a heave like that, with 3.5 seconds left. So Zion's just looking to do the right thing for the team was great. And then Trey's already inbounding the ball. He tosses it to Zion, and Zion does the Thanos move, right? When the villain his henchmen are all losing in the battle against the heroes, and Thanos has even said it himself in the Marvel movies. Fine, I'll do it myself. And then they kind of wade in and dominate, right? Zion did that. He gets the ball, and then he just hustled end to end from one end of the court to the other for a layup as time expired in 3.5 seconds, right? Look, people make jokes over his weight. He's not a guard. He's a bigger dude than the guard. And he went end to end in 3.5 seconds with a layup off the glass that wasn't anything that the Clippers could do about it, right? That is an incredible play by him and what he just did here. So that was, to me, showing you where this guy is and what he's doing right now and how well he's playing. Again, this was a playoff game and Zion delivered. This should give you a lot of optimism heading into the postseason that he can dominate a series and this team, as constructed, is capable of winning. Right? We don't know how Zion and BI look in the postseason together. And while BI wasn't amazing offensively, he was good defensively in this game too, and also dishing the ball and kind of playing his role, knew to defer to Zion, hit his open threes, which is also an awesome thing. So to see Zion just dominate like that, you go, if he's capable of rising to the occasion in this game that was essentially a playoff game, right? Oh yeah, watch out NBA when this dude finally gets into the actual postseason and we can see what he's capable of doing. Now, I think the Clippers are a good matchup for the Pelicans here. And you had certain guys going. The Clippers, to kind of really sum it up here quickly, I think, is a very good matchup for New Orleans. One, you have a guy who can stop Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, right? Herb Jones was incredible. The block that he had on Paul George, where Paul George has a wide open three-pointer. You've seen the stills of it. I saw it live in the arena. I can't wait to watch the replay of it, right? And then Herb Jones just goes and blocks that wide open three-pointer that Paul George took. I hope people understand how rare it is that three-point shots get blocked. You don't see that often because, and I've talked about this, right? If you look at the majority of three-point attempts, the NBA data says closely contested, tight, open, wide open, whatever it is, right? Like 85% of three-point attempts in the NBA are wide open, so no defender within 6 feet. Guys don't take threes if there's a chance they could get contested because it's easier to block those shots. So they don't take those. So rarely do you see three-pointers blocked, and Herb Jones just does this regularly. Like it's no big deal. I think Will Guillory tweeted it out. He's got 20 this season or 14, something like that. I forget what the number is. That's absurd. And I'd be curious if anyone has more than him other than maybe Wemby. But at his size in the small forward position, 6'7", that's an incredible thing. So you have a guy that can shut down one of, or make their life difficult, let's say, Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. And one of the reasons why I love this matchup for the Pelicans is Zubac. He is just not great for them in this matchup, right? When he's bad, it really hurts the Clippers. He can't do anything against Zion Williamson, right? Even Larry Nance Jr. was giving him trouble. It was great to see Larry have a strong game in this one. But Zubac is a problem. So it doesn't mean, and we talked about this after the Cavs lost, right? Jared Allen presents like a center problem for the New Orleans Pelicans. Certain teams present a center problem, a big man problem for the Pelicans, not the Clippers. Not the Clippers, and I don't think the Timberwolves will either. So getting the Clippers in the first round, I don't know if the Pelicans will be favored. I doubt it. But the fact that their center position isn't a negative for them, I think is really, really big and means they can probably win in the first round if they get the Los Angeles Clippers. So Zubac being a problem for them when Zion can just dominate him like that. You know, Jonas wasn't great in terms of shooting, but was key out there for just creating space. You can play small with Larry. Like that means this is a good matchup for the Pelicans, and I like this one, but you still got to deliver these victories. They did. Zion dominated. That's, to me, one of the biggest stories from this game. Like, it was absolutely fantastic to see Zion step up like that. But other guys stepped up, including Trey Murphy. And you saw Willie Green make an interesting adjustment with Trey out there. Let's talk about that closing lineup. Who played in the clutch for the New Orleans Pelicans? That's coming up here next in a live bonus episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, I'm excited to tell you about Stitch Fix. Look, I hate shopping, don't really love ordering clothes online because are they going to fit? Well, with Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget, and they do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. So easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. Just give your stylist your size, style, and budget preference, and you get to order boxes when and how you want, no subscription required. And they're going to send 5 pieces picked just for you, outfit recommendations, and pro styling advice. You get to keep what work and send back the rest. So they're always going to send you just on-point pieces. They are very good at this, and they're going to make it really look easy. And now the best part, you don't have to shop. And if you don't love something, just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. So style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, coming to you live, breaking down everything you want to see from a Pelican show, whether it's trade rumors, when it was the trade deadline, whether it's the X's and O's breakdown. We're going to get into some of that here too. The tactical side of things, talking about the future, the salary cap, we cover it all. Subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts. Join almost 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube. Become an everydayer. Listen Monday through Friday. But do me one thing. Tell a friend about the show. Text them this link right now and say you need to jump on and watch this so they know what's going on with the team. Because look, Pelicans looking good going into the postseason. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a furious end to the regular season. I can't wait. And we're going to be covering it all. Okay. So, y'all notice who closed the game? Wasn't CJ McCollum. And normally that might not be the move here, but this lineup that the Pelicans went with definitely seemed like the right group. Larry Nance Jr. at the center spot, Zion Williamson, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, and Trey Murphy over CJ McCollum. On a night where Trey goes 4 of 9 from 3, finishes with 14 points, was big in getting rebounds, was also dishing the ball very easily as well. It was the right move. CJ, a couple of games now, kind of struggling, his shot not falling. You don't want to do a knee-jerk reaction all the time, but this was Willie Green kind of feeling the game and making the right decision. We talked about it after the Cavaliers loss. If your guys aren't shooting well, do you need to put in one who maybe is, right? Do you give minutes to Matt Ryan, to Jordan Hawkins? Well, with CJ struggling 1 of 7 from 3, though he was kind of key early on in keeping the Pelicans in it with a couple of important buckets, keeping things close, he just didn't have it going in this game. And that's okay, because you have Trey Murphy off the bench who gives you size and defense at that position. And as you watch them close the game, you see just so many great two-man actions between Zion Williamson and Trey Murphy. They run it all game. They do a number of things where they just kind of keep Trey close to him, right? You could call it a play if you want, where Zion has the ball on the three-point line, starts to move down. They have Trey to his right usually, and then Trey's man, if he takes a step towards Zion, Zion sees that, kicks the ball to Trey, wide open three-point attempt. You also see it where Trey runs baseline and they use Zion's gravity to kind of draw a defender out, and then they run a back screen so another player comes and sets a screen on Trey Murphy's guy. Trey goes to the three-point line, boom, it's a wide open three-point shot on a dish from Zion or Brandon Ingram. Seeing that is exactly what you want. There is cohesion to the offense, which there hasn't always been. But when there's a little bit more spacing, when players are taking threes, it keeps things flowing, and they need that, right? We've talked about this a lot here on Locked On Pelicans, that your offense is often going to mean how good your defense can be. And the Pelicans defense is very good in the half court, particularly when you have someone like Herb Jones, who's just amazing, right? We all agree. Give him opportunities to defend. When you have Zion Williamson locked in trying to defend like he is, Brandon Ingram, who's making some really great plays late in this one defensively, getting a steal off of an inbound, right? Ingram was good defensively in this game. Everyone stepped up defensively in this game. CJ being a little bit undersized, he tried to defend, but at times they were just getting mismatches, and the Clippers have a lot of length. So going with Trey, putting more length and height out there on the court was the right move, even if it was a little controversial, right? Like putting CJ on the bench and going with Trey, maybe is or isn't, but that's a bold move not to go with one of your starters, one of your 3 best players on the team. But with Trey shooting it like he is, with you needing length, more height to combat the Clippers a little bit, perfect. And when you get the defense like this from everybody, Zion being switched on to Kawhi, being switched on to Paul George and holding his own, same for Brandon Ingram holding his own against both of those guys. Everybody looked really good, and it gave Zion on the offense room to close this game out. We haven't always seen that, right? One of the reasons they struggle in the clutch is the spacing's not there. They become a little bit easier to defend. But in the fourth quarter, when they're keying in on people, and Zion Williamson has 7 points, right? And then Trey off the bench there hits 2 big threes, finishes with 8 in that quarter. That's how you do it. Brandon Ingram hit a 3 in that quarter as well. That's big, right? The Pelicans in the fourth quarter were 5 of 10 from deep. That number means there's going to be room. And so Zion can attack. And they did. And that's why they won that game, right? They won the fourth quarter, the one you got to win. It was a close game. The Clippers could get into it, right? 30-24. It's a 6-point victory in the fourth. When you're already leading, that's a real good position to be in, and why the Pelicans closed this one out. That's a great adjustment by Willie Green, just kind of feeling things out, knowing what the right move is. And it led to the Pelicans getting this victory. Again, I think the Clippers are a little bit of a good matchup for the Pelicans, but you can only play who's in front of you, and they're a good team that's beaten the Pelicans in New Orleans. They had a chance to tie the season series here. Zion dominating like this, B.I. dishing the ball like this, playing defense like he did, Trey Murphy feeling his shot, CJ early, Herb Jones being a menace defensively, good Larry minutes because the center position doesn't hurt you here because Zubac has no chance against the Pels. You get the dub. That's all you can do. It's awesome. And again, I think this sends a message to the Clippers, right? Maybe they want to try and dodge the Pelicans if they can. Now, do they want to play the Pels in the first round? I'm not sure that they do. Does that mean there are going to be some seeding things? Will they lose a game on purpose? It really impacts things. So it's tough to overstate how big this game was. And the Clippers did it while healthy without James Harden for the most part. Like, it's a good win. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to end the show. If you're on just the audio side, show is going to end. I'm going to do the outro, but we're going to stay live for a little bit longer. I'm going to take your questions in kind of a bonus fourth segment here on Locked On Pelicans, where I'm going to interact with y'all. I'll look at the chat, talk with y'all, and we'll kind of go from there. I'm going to hit the outro clip here, but we're going to stay on. We're going to be sneaky about it. Stick with me for a second here. So let me wrap up the show. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Big win. We'll talk on Monday about the win. Saturday night, back-to-back for the Pels against the Trailblazers. Hopefully going to be another win. See y'all on Monday. Stay with me if you're on YouTube. And we're back here, a little bonus segment of Locked On Pelicans After Dark, where we can take your questions here. I can answer and talk with y'all in the chat. I saw ABJ504, the most consistent Locked On Pelicans every day, are always saying comment here. All right, if you're an everydayer, let me know in the chat as well. Put your Pelicans questions in the chat. I'll start looking at it now. If you're an everydayer, say hi. If you're just excited, put it in there. What'd you think of the Herb Jones block? How did you think about Zion Williamson dominating this game? Really important that he did. Love to see that. That was awesome. Yeah, here we go here. So it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to take a look at the chat. Tommy Jones, Jose and Najee were huge tonight. Yeah, they were really good, right? Jose hit threes. That was a really important thing here. And let me see, where did the numbers go? Jose, I can think, hit 2-3 threes, something like that off the bench. What was his numbers? He only made one? Oh, that's in the fourth quarter. He hit a big three in the fourth quarter. Where'd my numbers just go? Jose was 3 of 5. You could feel his presence out there, just moving the ball and being a shooter for New Orleans, fighting for certain plays. Najee Marshall, too, right? 8 points, but 2 big threes. He had that great lob to Trey Murphy for the alley-oop. You know, that play was incredible by itself. Trey making that cut that he did there was impressive, because that's not the type of action the Pelicans often have in their offense. So him going with this cut like that for the lob and Najee recognizing it. Najee Marshall is the best lob thrower on the New Orleans Pelicans right now, right? Not as good as Lonzo was, but he was easily the best guy, and he throws a couple of really good ones to the to Zion and everything here. So was really cool to see that kind of connection with everything, and a lot of fun out there, and helping them also, you know, get the win with everything. All right, what else do we have here? Doug Rosenthal says, realistic odds of Herb winning Defensive Player of the Year. Probably not. Like, if you look at that award in general, for the most part, it goes to big man. He should be in the running. I'm curious what the Defensive Player of the Year, we're going to look this up, right? Player of the Year in the NBA. Let's look at the odds here, because I'm kind of curious on where he's put. Like, usually it goes to a big man because they get more blocks, and Herb isn't getting just as many blocks because he's more of a perimeter defender. But the way he locks down guys is like truly a special thing. So yeah, if you look at this, right, I'm looking at the odds here on FanDuel right now. The favorite is Rudy Gobert, then Victor Wembanyama, then Jared Allen, then Bam Adebayo, then Anthony Davis. You finally get a perimeter player in Derek White at 1, 2, 3, 6. That's where you finally get it. Then it jumps to Chet Holmgren, so you go back to another big man, then Giannis, and it takes a while before you get to another perimeter player. So Herb Jones, probably not going to get it, because it's going to go to a big man, just because they do more rim protection down low. It's kind of more obvious to see what they do, but he should at least get some votes. And again, if he doesn't make the first all defensive team, like first team, that's a crime. It should be him, not even second team. It should be first team. I think this highlight block over Paul George that he turned into offense, like that's going to kind of put him more on the radar for all of those things, but I don't see him winning Defensive Player of the Year. QJ says, I like Brandon's defense and deferring to Zion. He understands when it's not his night. I like our core of Zion, B.I. Herb and Trey. He left CJ out there. Look, Trey's part of the future. They're going to try and extend him. He'll probably get a max rookie extension. There's no reason not to just do it now unless you wanted to avoid for the cap for whatever reason. That's why this team gets expensive. But those are a lot of the core guys, right? They wouldn't trade any of those four as of today. They might trade other players, but definitely not them here. Sebastian Zia, okay, man. Do you think the Pelicans should sign Eric Bledsoe? Never again. The Eric Bledsoe year is probably, he's one of my least favorite Pelicans players of all time. That interview he gave where he's like, I wasn't paying attention, whether he wasn't paying attention to Stan Van Gundy, the head coach, or what happened in that loss to the New York Knicks where he gave it up. Nope, never need another. I don't need to talk about Eric Bledsoe. We should just kind of ban his name here with everything. 99 Dog has a good question that's probably more suited for the offseason, but I'll answer here. Is it time to move on from CJ and go with a traditional point guard? No, because you don't need a traditional point guard because Zion's handling the ball. BI's handling the ball. What good is a dude who can just pass, right? You better be able to shoot threes then too, but then it just kind of fills the CJ role. And CJ being such a good pull-up guy that if the ball is in his hand, you need to defend him because he might just hoist up a shot, take it, and make it is really important. He had a bad game tonight, but overall, he's been a very good three-point shooter this season. So I definitely don't think that you should benching him in this game was the right move, but there might be other games when that's not the move. Not benching him, but not closing with him. So no, I don't think there's a reason to go get another traditional or go with a traditional point guard right now. There's reasons to. I would have loved them to have gone after a guy like Tyus Jones at the trade deadline, but I think a point guard off the bench could help you when you don't have both Zion and BI out there. One of them could benefit from that, but Jose is also filling that role decently for the Pelicans right now. New Orleans Maple Leaf, I feel like they don't scare who's they don't care who scores as long as they get the W. Oh yeah, this team's close. You can see the team chemistry is high. If they need to defer, if it needs another guy to score and do it and they don't get theirs, absolutely they don't have a problem with that whatsoever with anything here. Yeah, someone says Rudy Gobert is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. I agree. CCM25, any health updates or concerns about Herb after he hit his head on the floor? No, not if he played in the second half and then also blocked that Paul George shot in the second half. I think the dude definitely looks fine here. Arrogant One Green says the crime hasn't made third team yet. There's no third team all defense, so you can't do it. It's just first and second team. QJ says, what do you think of Brandon Ingram Zion's defense? They've been good. I think it'll help because you need that starting lineup to be decent, right? That's what it is. That starting lineup has not been good. The Pelicans' identity is as a defensive team. So for all of them to then go out and contribute on that side of the ball means if they do figure it out offensively, that starts to become a very elite unit really quickly. Jody Harrison, March Madness is almost here. Anyone playing in the NCAA tournament you want to see with the Pels? I haven't looked at college at all, to be honest. I don't do it till the draft. I'm spending my time watching the NBA, so I'm not doing draft scouting, anything like that, till we kind of know where the Pelicans are picking, and we can start to key in on that. Then I do a ton of it, and we'll have tons of shows on it coming up in the draft, where the Pelicans could have 2 first-round picks here. So I think that's really exciting. Aaron Paulin says the Pels have most complete roster, in my opinion. Unselfish ball, playing equals championship contenders besides defense. No, I think your star players need to have it offensively too. They haven't always, right? The Pelicans' strength is their bench, and they're running 9 guys now, and you're seeing the playoff rotation. But when teams are just going 7 guys, some teams do 8 guys, right? Your depth isn't as big in the postseason because you need your starters to lead you. If the Pelicans figure that out, then the depth is great. But depth without that starting unit being good too is something that might backfire on them or kind of bite them in the postseason as well. So let's keep going here. Johnny Burnett says, with all injuries in the Western Conference, we might be more competitive in the playoffs. I mean, look, we don't wish injuries on anybody at all, right? We don't want anyone to get hurt. It's the great equalizer. If the Pelicans, I don't think it's a good matchup with Denver, right? No one wants to play Denver, but if Jokic goes down, yeah, great, right? The Clippers losing Russell Westbrook hurts them. I don't think it's the biggest deal, right? Minnesota losing Towns is also a big deal, but not the biggest deal because I think they're led by Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. They're led by him and then the defense they do, and Cat's not contributing that much on the defensive side of the ball. So look, stay healthy, and this Pelicans team is showing what they can do. It still might not mean they get out of the first round, even with some of the injuries out there. But look, it means we're going to like their chances a little bit more. So let's answer a couple more questions here, and then we'll start to wrap up. Let everybody go do their thing on a Friday night here, or enjoy the parade, get some sleep for that tomorrow here. John Patrick Dario says, who do you think will be the most important player, coach in a playoff series against the Clippers? I mean, it's Zion, right? Like, when it comes to this team, you know, there's a reason like Zion is listed ahead of Brandon Ingram. There's more talented players, the guy that can kind of take over and eventually just win you a series, I think. When Zion got going in this one, right, and he immediately came out firing to start the third quarter. I think he scored 6 points himself and forced a quick Clippers timeout. He could take over a game like nobody else does. And when he's kind of in this kind of form, it's pretty terrifying. So, look, the biggest difference maker on the team, X Factor might be a different question, but the biggest difference maker, I'm going to order him for you. It's probably going to go Zion, then Brandon Ingram, then Herb Jones, and then you can pick one of CJ or Trey Murphy or put them in any order you like. Big homie, Jaw TV, any chance Carlo Makovic gets a look before the season is over? I mean, maybe, but likely not. You know, I think right now, there's no reason to give anybody else minutes. I know it'd be nice to give Jordan Hawkins minutes, right? Matt Ryan some more minutes. You're winning games, right? They've won 5 out of their last 6 now, right? They were on a 4-game winning streak coming into the loss against the Cavaliers. That's worth keeping in mind. If things are going well, you don't rock the boat too much. Just win games, right? You could be in the play-in tournament still. There's no reason to play like an untested guy like Carlo that could lose you a game when let's just get into the playoffs and not stress and anything like that. Mike Bowler says, I think the Pelicans need a defensive anchor. They would be championship ready. I mean, I don't know what else that would do, right? Like I'm pulling up their defense here, and what the ranking is. It's probably going to maybe even go up after this one for holding the Pelicans, but I can get their defensive rating here. It's in the top 10. You know, what more do you need to see from the defense here? You know, when you look at what they do, if you had their defensive anchor, you could say is Herb Jones, right? Like, he's been fantastic. The Pelicans have the 6th best defense after this game tonight. What they're doing is working. They're also really good in the half court because they don't let you get into the paint and they turn you over and then they get out and run. That's better than funneling guys to like a defensive rim protector. They're 9th best at forcing turnovers this season. And then it lets them get in the fast break where Herb Jones leads the team and has more points than Zion and is absolutely dominant here with everything. Let's keep going here with a couple of other questions, and then we're going to start to wrap, or we'll keep going. There's a lot of y'all in here. Christopher Spice, SPIESS, Pels social media, Cook Stephen A. They did. Look, you're hearing all of a sudden the Pels are winning, and you heard a lot of national media recently start to say like, oh, this team is really good, right? Kendrick Perkins. No one's talking about the New Orleans Pelicans, except we're talking about him here Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So people are starting to kind of like take note. Again, I think we still are not entirely certain about what this Pelicans team is and what they'll look in the postseason. Some things are a little bit weird. Again, I don't think that depth, you know, the Najee, Jose, some of those guys off the bench are going to win you a playoff series. They're not going to hurt you, which is also a good thing, but you've got to get the starters figured out. They're winning games. People are paying attention to the fact that they're winning, but they're not looking at why or how with this Pelicans team. No one, by the way, who's like, oh, the Pelicans are a problem. No one's talking about them outside of saying like Zion, Brandon Ingram. No one's telling you at all how they're winning games. And it's, you know, they get stops. They get in transition run and then get back, get set, and can force more turnovers. They are a defensive team. That is their identity, right? So people don't know that, but they're starting to pick up on it. And yeah, Pels social media. That was my jump off point to say Pelicans social media cooked Stephen A. Smith here. But like, don't pay attention to that. Like, that's the best thing I can say, you know, unless you want to kind of go and get outraged with things. Don't worry about that. We're covering the team here, giving you the insight you want. So that type of content you're looking for exists here and in other places as well. Christopher Friend says, do you think there's a chance we could get Jared Allen in the offseason? Yeah, like I think that you're going to see them probably make, you know, a move at center. You know, there might be talk about them extending Jonas. They might do that if they can't find, you know, the right type of move for him and need to be in sign and trade, right? Because he's a free agent. They can't just let him walk because they're over the cap, and that would be a problem. So I think you're going to look at them kind of exploring the trade market for a center big time. I expect talks with the Cavs, depending on what they do in the postseason around Jared Allen, to heat back up again. I don't think everything's like done and dusted with all of that. So I expect them to maybe, I'd say it's like 75% certain that they're going to have a different starting center going into next season here. Y'all are talking about Stephen A. Smith in the comments instead of talking about the New Orleans Pelicans. Come on now. That's who we should be talking about here. But it's also a Friday night, so I get it. Jim Clemmer says, Zion diving for the ball. Is this the Zion we want to see? Like, of course it is. Of course it is here, right? You know, it's awesome to see Zion. I was on the radio a bunch on Friday, you know, and I think one or two of the times I said, I was like, he's acting like a professional NBA player right now. And that's the important thing. And that's what I love seeing from him. Like, you see how frustrated he is out there. I like that he's frustrated. It means he cares. It means he's upset, right? It's showing emotion. You saw angry Zion at times during this game. You saw Zion take over. This was like, to me, the like true Zion coming out party, right? Oh, look at this. He just led you to the most important victory you've had this season. And it was Zion doing it the way your stars are. I absolutely love to see that. It was a lot of fun. Let's end it there. That's it for this bonus episode of Locked On Pelicans. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. We'll be back on Monday. No bonus show tomorrow night after the Timberwolves game. Can't wait. Hopefully we'll have good news to talk about the Pelicans, get you set for the week and everything. And yeah, I'll see y'all on Monday. Thanks everyone for being here with me. We're going to hit the outro video again.